We will have that discussion, but not today. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the different types of genetic technologies that y'all have been researching on the Hudson Alpha timeline. Okay. So we're going to start with selective breeding, which you found way back in 7000 BC. Okay. So selective breeding is also described in the Bible. There are biblical stories about selective breeding where they separated the goats. The stronger goats that had more meat on them were bred with other strong goats, and the weak goats were given to the people they didn't like. Okay. That is selective breeding. So y'all know that I have two wonderful dogs that I love incredibly, right? I have Luna, who is a purebred German Shepherd, okay? AKC registered German Shepherd. And then we have our newest dog, Joker, who we don't really know what breed he is. He is a mixed breed. Now, Luna was selectively bred. Okay, they chose the father, they chose the mother, and they made sure that only that father bred with that mother to make those puppies. Okay, and so that's how they can ensure that she is a purebred German Shepherd. Yes.
If a Belgian Malamute and a Belgian Shepherd makes a baby, what would that be?
I don't know. A Belgian Malamute Shepherd, but not a purebred. Not a purebred, a pure breed, like our sweet Joker. And y'all can't see this picture, but they can see this picture at home of sweet Joker. Joker has one blue eye and one brown eye. He looks a lot like a black lab, but he kind of has a pit bull kind of shape to his head as well. He has the webbed feet like a lab would have. So he is not a purebred. He was not selectively bred. Okay. So selective breeding has been happening for a long time. It's a very simple thing that farmers often do, or that breeders of horses, of dogs, even of pigs and chickens and things of that sort, they control which animals mate with which animals to get the characteristics that they are looking for in those particular organisms. So, what is selective breeding? It is where you choose which organisms breed together to get certain characteristics. So if you have an apple, a type of apple that is really, really sweet, the best tasting apple in the world, but it goes rotten really fast. That's, it's really good that it's really sweet, but if you're going to buy a bag of apples at the store, if you're not going to eat the whole bag in one day and they go rotten really fast, that doesn't really help you, right? But then if you go find another breed of apple that lasts a long time sitting on your kitchen counter without going rotten, and you can breed that apple with the sweet, wonderful tasting apple to get the perfect mix. That is selective breeding. Okay, you're choosing to get the attributes from one and the attributes from another. You breed them together and hopefully you get the sweetness from the one apple and the long-lasting shelf life from the other. Not necessarily the case, right? You could get the gross taste from the one and the quick rotting from the other. Those characteristics could mix together there. So it's not foolproof in all cases, okay?
First, you'll have to find out what's recessive and what's dominant.
Yes. So recessive and dominant traits definitely come into that, but that is something that is more genetic hybridization than it is selective breeding. Okay. With selective breeding, you take your chances that you're going to get the characteristics from each of the parents that you're hoping to get. So next we have hybridization. So we know that like hybrids, for instance, my husband has a hybrid car. So it takes gasoline and it's electric. So we have a charger at home. When he gets home, we plug the car up. I drive it to school sometimes because I can drive to school and back in his car and not use any gas at all. But he works in Birmingham. So when he drives his car to work, he can make it all the way to work without using any gas, but he's got to use gas when he comes back because it doesn't hold enough electrical charge. So it is a hybrid. So hybridization is a mixture that you control. So it's kind of like selective breeding, but it's where you take specific parts of the genes from each to make a hybrid. So then you have, it's kind of like, we talked about when donkeys and horses make babies, they have mules. So a mule is a hybrid. Okay. So they do that a lot in farming and especially with like vegetables and stuff that you like or don't like, but that you eat. Okay. So genetic hybridization is the process of interbreeding individuals from genetically distinct populations to produce a hybrid. Again, the apple scenario, to get one aspect of this type of organism and one aspect of this type of organism but it's more controlled of which genes you are using from which than what selective breeding is. Okay. Next up, induced mutation. So we talked about how mutations are when your DNA, the code in your DNA changes. Okay. Sometimes there's an accident in the translation of it and it gets translated wrong. Sometimes when it crosses over, part of this DNA sticks to this DNA. And so you get this mutation. You get a change in that code. Induced mutation is forcing that change in the DNA sequence. So then it can be passed on to children after that. Okay. So it's a purposeful change in that DNA sequence.
I have a recessive trait, left-handed.
Okay. So next we have recombinant DNA, and this is where you rearrange the DNA to get the DNA code that you need. So each of the amino acids in the DNA, we talked about adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, each of those in a certain order code for certain proteins. So in recombinant DNA, they mix up those letters, they mix up those amino acids in a different order, which forces the DNA to build different proteins, which leads to differences in the genetics. And then we have genome editing, which is the newest aspect of genetic technology. We have found a way where we can find specific parts of DNA. So you know how on the computer, what is Control V? What is Control C?
Copy.
What is Control X?
Cut.
Cut. Control X, you just cut a piece out. Control C, you copy a piece, and Control V, you paste that piece back in. They now have tools that can do that with DNA. So they can take out very specific parts of your DNA and then replace it with other parts. Yes.
Is there such thing as blood DNA?
So the DNA in your blood is the same as the DNA in your body altogether. Every cell in your body has the exact same DNA, with the exception of those cells that are created through the process of meiosis, right? That are made specifically for reproduction. So genome editing is the newest thing and the most controversial. Although there is controversy with all of these different types of genetic technologies, genome editing is the most controversial. Now, we're perfectly okay with them taking DNA for corn and taking out a piece of their DNA and putting in another piece to make that corn super sweet, right? And maybe to make it easier to bite off the cob. Okay, because when you're young, corn on the cob is fun to eat, right? But when you're older, it's just messy. You still like the taste, but it's messy. You know, all the juices are getting all over your face and your corn pieces stuck in your teeth and stuff. So it's messy. You don't want to go on a date with somebody you like and be chomping on corn on the cob, right? That's not pleasant to watch. So what if we could change the corn to make it super sweet, but not so juicy, so it squirts juice everywhere, right? That would be nice. It would be nice not to have corn all over your face when you're eating corn on the cob. So I think we can all agree that we're probably okay with that, right? We're probably okay with changing out the DNA and editing the DNA in apples so they don't get those brown spots on them, because nobody wants to eat the brown spots. You just don't eat apples at all. What about oranges? So you know the little cuties that are real easy to peel?
No.
Those are genetically modified to make the peels separate from the orange so they're easier to peel. Okay? They're a lot easier than, say, navel oranges are. Navel oranges are harder to peel, but are much sweeter oranges, and much juicier oranges. So if you're going to make orange juice, you're probably not going to buy the little cuties, or what are some of the other names for them?
Well, if you mix cuties with the other ones, it would be sweet and easy to peel.
Yeah. See, now you're thinking. So, however, what if we start allowing people to genetically modify their babies while they're in the womb so they will have the color eyes they want them to have? Is that okay?
No.
So, here's the thing. They call them designer babies. Okay? So here's the thing. Where do we draw the line? Now, those are two extremes that are easy to say. Yes, it's okay to make sweeter corn and apples that don't bruise so easy. No, it's not okay to change what your baby's going to look like. That's not okay. All right? Those are easy distinctions on one side or the other. And believe it or not, there are people that think it's okay to change the way your baby looks. But most people agree that that's going too far. That's not our place, humans' place in the world. But there are a lot of moral arguments with genetic editing. How many of you hear commercials about GMOs? You hear something and it says no GMOs. We don't have any GMOs. Or when you go grocery shopping, you see it printed on the packaging. GMO is genetically modified, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the O stands for right now, but I should. But I don't. But the G and the M are genetically modified. So what it is telling you is they have genetically modified. You see it a lot in milk. They've genetically modified those cows to produce a lot of milk.
Modified organism.
Thank you. Organism. The chickens, when you buy chicken breasts, when you get KFC, that breast is this big, right? Chickens don't have breasts that big without a lot of genetic modification. Okay? And there's actually been a lot of discussion about the cruelty to the chickens, because those chickens are genetically modified to the point that if they are not butchered at the right point in their life, their breast muscles will get so big that it literally breaks their legs, that their legs are not strong enough to hold the weight of their breasts.
Wow.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, I like the big juicy white breast meat of a nice fried chicken at KFC, right? But is that okay? Is it okay to do that to those chickens? I mean, some people would say, well, we're killing them and eating them anyway. Is that okay? But there are a lot of gray areas when you start talking about the morality of genetics. So if there is a genetic illness, for instance, I have a friend who has Huntington's disease. Huntington's disease is fatal. It is a genetic disorder that is passed down and usually starts showing symptoms when you get into your 40s or 50s. and your body quickly starts deteriorating from that point forward. What if, when they find that you have Huntington's disease, they could go in and change that DNA to fix it where you don't have that disease anymore? Yeah, that would be amazing, right? And that would help a lot of people.
That help you live longer than you're supposed to.
Help them live longer, help them live a more fulfilling life, because Huntington's disease becomes quite debilitating.
I've heard of Huntington's disease.
It's the same thing.
She just said that. You said Huntington.
Well, that is actually how you say it.
Well, I know somebody who has it.
So that would be amazing, right? Okay, so Down syndrome is a genetic disorder.
How do you get Down syndrome?
Actually, I don't think it's correct to call it a disorder, because that implies that it's something that's bad. And I would argue that Down syndrome is not something that's bad. It's something that's different, but different is not always bad, right?
Yeah.
I have learned some very valuable lessons about kindness and just being a good all-around human from people who have Down syndrome. So is that something that we need to fix? Technically, we have the genetic technology to fix it, but does it need fixing? And that's not a question that there is a right or wrong answer to. That is a moral question that you will be making decisions about based on who you vote for to make the rules and the laws. As these technologies develop and the uses of them begin to grow and increase, you are going to be making the decisions about how much we are allowed to change in humans and how much we are not allowed to change in humans, where those lines are drawn. And as with many other things that we vote about, it's not black and white. It's not, it is clear as mud, okay? There's not necessarily a definite yes and a definite no. Definite yes, make my corn tasty without getting corn juice all over my face. Absolutely. Definite no, you absolutely cannot mess around with your baby's DNA to make it look the way you want it to look. No, that's not okay. But there's a lot of in between there. A lot of gray area of what is and is not okay. Does that make sense? And those are decisions that you are going to make in your lifetime, because these technologies exist today. Somebody asked, when are we going to clone humans? The technology exists to do that. They have cloned sheep, they have cloned monkeys, they have cloned dogs. If they can do that, they can absolutely clone humans. The technology exists. Right now, the global rules are that it is not okay to clone humans. Does everybody always follow the rules?
No.
Is it possible that somewhere on this earth somebody is cloning humans?
Yes.
Yeah, probably an area 51.
It is possible. And you know what? I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I think somebody's probably doing it somewhere.
Maybe create an army for another world war.
Clone Shelby for softball.
Yeah, I need 2 of Shelby so she can both play first base and catcher. But I would not do that because I don't think that's morally okay. That is my own moral conviction. There are days as a mother and as a teacher and a coach that I wish there were 2 or 3 of me. But there are a couple movies out there that are like fictional movies about somebody who was cloned and then the problems that occur from that.
That could actually
I think one of them is Multiplicity, I think is the name of it. So you should watch that and see what are some problems that could arise if there are 2 of you. You know, it sounds like a great idea, doesn't it, Mr. Johnson?
It does.
But it could run into problems if your clone makes promises that you are unaware of, and then things get messed up. So lots of moral decisions that y'all will be making based on who you vote for and how far we allow this genetic technology to take us. So you have a few minutes. I want you to think about what we've talked about about the different techniques and tools, and fill out that last column about how that particular technique is different from others.
Are we supposed to wait for one of the coaches to come down here before we go? Or do we just go?
Good question.
Because I have some that don't go.
I know. Crap, come on. I'm probably recording myself saying crap, come on. Right now. Yeah, I don't know. So I think what's supposed to happen is the people who eat break are supposed to take their kids up there and then go to their next class, and then that person leaves, and and then we kind of rotate while the kids are eating their break.
That never happens.
Yeah, because
Well, when I go, I do. And I think you do. But I get there and they just hang out so well. That's not my